What's the most diverse and yet underappreciated biome in Minecraft? Weaving throughout the landscape with stunning visual diversity and yet paid no attention. Of course, I'm talking about forests. Join me and my foxy friend Millie as we journey through our forever world to transform patches of every forest in the game. So before we do anything, I want to grab some tools and my backpack so that we can... Why did I say tools? I meant food. But we've got my backpack. Let's just bring it over here. Let's grab ourselves some food. We'll take a few stacks of bread, and then we're gonna need to take some wood, maybe some torches, our flint and steel, another piece of bread, and maybe some extra diamonds just in case for tool repairs. So let's get all of this stuff packed up into my backpack, and then let's get this backpack on my back. Looking good. Now let's see what forests we have to cover. We have the spruce forests in the north, the jungles, the savanna biomes with acacia, we have dark oak and regular oak, birch, which tends to be flower forests as well, mangroves and swamps, and we can't forget our lovely little cherry groves. Also, we have our warped and crimson forest in the nether, and I think that's it. So with that all figured out, we should be good to head out to get some materials, but first let me grab my silk touch pick because I almost forgot that we will need that for our ice later. And if you're wondering why I'll need ice, don't worry about it just yet. I hit up my iron farm for a bunch of iron, then picked up spruce wood and leaves. I headed underground for coal, stone, and glowberries. I picked up some obsidian and then headed out for jungle wood and leaves. I then spent a decent amount of time gathering and storing a bunch of packed ice, then headed back to the jungle. Okay, so we're starting here in the jungle, and the idea with this area is that we're going to do some sort of lost civilization vibe. So I want to do some gnarled and overgrown jungle trees, and then a nice mossy, ancient looking statue. But let's start with some trees. So that's the base of our first tree done. Now let's do our second tree. And the kind of idea here is, I want to say almost palm tree inspired. I know that's not particularly like jungly, but just hear me out, it's gonna look great. That is tree trunk number 2 done. Let's get tree trunk number 3 done. So since this is a palmy type tree, I'm gonna have to make a little platform on the top here and just kind of have this situation going on. And then we can build down a little bit and start adding in our leaves downwards like this. I will say that palm trees are kind of the hardest to get right, but I think we should be fine because I've done this a million times at this point. I'd say that's looking pretty good for a simple jungly palm tree, but now let's get up here and add in some cocoa beans because I completely forgot that I wanted to add them. I just figured I am in the jungle. I could totally make myself some bamboo right now. Or I mean scaffolding, but with bamboo. Probably would save me a lot of time and broken ankles. Actually, never mind. I don't have any string on me. Something I do have though is a bed so we don't have to deal with any scaries once the moon comes up. And with the safety of morning, let's get up here and add leaves to our second tree. So just like we did with the first tree, we are doing the little platform at the top. And then of course we'll get underneath and do the bits that sort of hang down. And of course we're going to do the same thing with our third and final tree. And just like that, we have some slightly more interesting trees for our jungle. So now for our statues, and obviously my inspo for this is gonna be the Ellis Island head statues. When I was little, I totally believed the theories that there were whole stone bodies underground and only the heads stuck out. I still don't know if that's true actually, but we aren't gonna go that far today either way. We are just gonna do a really cute little head statue, and I'm gonna model it after a villager. Or maybe an iron golem. I guess in statue form, they're probably going to look pretty similar, so we'll see how this turns out. This isn't the most technically difficult thing in the world, but because we're going for that old ancient ruin vibe, it actually ends up kind of being a bit trickier than you'd think. It's not just placing like one block type and calling it a day, it is always just a variation and texture of everything. Like, I'm trying to make it look like this structure has obviously been here forever and it's like slowly being reclaimed by nature, and of course I want it to feel broken down but also not messy at the same time. So it's just finding that balance between chaos and, well, correct, like what we're going for. But I'm hoping my semi-random placement is gonna look good when we're done. But I guess only time will tell, so let's just get this thing finished. Okay, right now this is kind of giving no face from Spirited Away, which is fine, but it's not quite what we're going for. So let's get ourselves up here and add a nice big nose to this thing. Now, would you say this looks more like an iron golem or a villager? I feel like the iron golem, right? Now we just need to give this guy some hair in the form of leaves. Obviously this isn't meant to be hair, but I feel like it probably is just gonna look like hair. But it will also make it look nice and overgrown and much more ancient vibes, I guess. With that part done, we can go ahead and add in some nice little glowberry details. Now it looks like he has a beard too. And let's also hang some glowberries from this part. Then finally, I just wanted to plant a few more ferns around here, and I'm gonna bone meal them so that we can make them into tall ferns. And just like that, we have the perfect ancient statue. So lastly, for our jungle, we need a portal. And for this, I'm gonna go for a ruins ancient type feel as well. I don't want to go into too much detail, but the reason that I'm building a portal is because I plan to make some nether highways. I don't know how well that's going to go, but I just figured that since a lot of biomes are fairly far away from each other, it would be cool to connect up our builds. Okay, here's how we're looking with our surrounding posts. I'm just going to get up and over the backside here and fill in this whole back part with stone bricks. That way we can only enter and exit the portal one way and we don't have to worry about scary things coming in from the back of the portal. Now with that done, we can add in some upside down stairs right here to create a little torch type area. So we'll go all the way around like this. And then in the center, we'll do a campfire. And of course, we're going to do the same on the other side. So we're looking pretty good now with our little roof bit on, but I am just going to take a pause for a second to add in some more of those like torches. So we're going to go around the edge just like this. Oh, not like that. Then let's get rid of this piece here and add a campfire in the middle. Perfect. So I'm just going to go along and continue adding those to all of these other ones. Honestly, I probably should have done this when I was building the little post, but I didn't really think about it because I didn't want to do this whole crouching business. I wanted to get back to doing the roof thing. But anyways, we're doing it now, and that is what matters most. Now I'm just going to add some extra leaves to the top of this thing, and I'm also going to add in some glowberries too, so that our ancient statue over here kind of matches what we've got going on over here. Alright, now on to the final stretch, which is actually adding in our portal. So we're just going to add in, of course, our obsidian just like this. Question is, do I want this to be the obsidian or should I cut out a bit of the wall? I think it will look better if we cut out the wall instead. So let's just get that done and out the way. Then we can fill in these gaps with our obsidian. And let's get this thing lit. Perfect. And don't worry, I've made sure to mark down my coordinates so we don't forget where this all is. And of course, we're going to need those coordinates to figure out the nether highway later, which I really don't want to do, but I will figure it out for you guys. And now we are in the lovely spruce forest. And if you've watched me before, you'll know that I absolutely love this forest and using the spruce wood to build pretty much everything. But let's get started on a couple of trees first, and then we can see what we can do to spruce this forest up a little bit. Pun intended, unfortunately. Now, these trees are gonna look very similar to the regular vanilla spruce trees, but just with a few little upgrades, especially down near the base. I just figured that there's only so many ways that you can build a spruce tree before you get a little bit too crazy with it. So, luckily for me, and for my patience, this video isn't about going absolutely feral with giant custom fancy trees. It's more about upgrading the forest overall, giving it a bit more personality than the endless sea of identical trees you'd usually get in a spruce biome. So, the tweaks may be subtle, but that is exactly what we're going for. As promised, a very simple upgraded spruce tree. So we're going to go underneath now and add in our little extra details. And to do that, we're going to add in a couple of blocks right here. Couple of these palisades. Let's also bring those around here. Then let's bring some fences all the way down like this and some palisades. Now I like to think that made a huge difference. Now onto tree number 2, which will be this little guy. Just like we did with tree number 1, we're gonna make this a little bit taller and then go ahead and add in a bunch of leaves. I am gonna have to take this fall though because I don't have a water bucket on me immediately. That was okay though. This one is a tiny bit taller, so I think I'm gonna do 2 layers of this like single layer of leaves, if that makes sense. Just like this. Then on the bottom layer, we're just gonna go out 3 like this on each side. Ooh, honestly, how is that gonna work? I feel like maybe we need to just go across like this and then take out the corner pieces. Wait, no, because that's just gonna be a single. You know what? Let's just make this bottom one a bit wider. That's probably the logical answer here. All right, I'd say that's looking pretty good. Let's add in these little extra details. Of course, it's not going to be too much, just a little bit like that. And that is our extra trees done. So as you probably know, spruce forests already come with these little mossy border things, but I think we can do something so much better. So let's try and give them a bit of a facelift. I'm quite literally just going to build 2 big chunky boulders. Nothing fancy, just a good old mix of some stone variations stacked together in a big old rock pile. And I know that I'm making that not sound super exciting, but trust me, it's gonna do wonders for the space. I feel like the vanilla Minecraft boulders just feel a bit too random, like just a small handful of cobble thrown onto the ground and call it a day. So they don't really have that boulder feel, you know? Just more like a bump in the terrain. That being said, I'm giving these ones a bit more shape and structure, and hopefully, no, definitely, they're gonna look really good when we're done here. I just need to make sure that they look like they've been sitting here for a while and they're like still natural and blending in with the world, but also still intentional. I feel like you'd be surprised what a couple of good rocks can do to level up a forest build. Luckily, this hasn't been too difficult to build because I'm pretty much just spamming blocks and just switching in between little pieces here and there, so definitely not mad about that. But I'm just finishing off by adding in some moss up here and planting some ferns. And there we have our first big boulder, which I think we can all agree looks way better than this. Now let's just get a second smaller boulder built and then we can move on to our portal. And now I'm just clearing up the remnants of these old boulders. Okay, so remember earlier when I said that this video wasn't about doing any custom crazy trees? Well, I may have lied just a tiny bit, but hear me out. For this area where our portal is going, I want to build a pretty big custom spruce tree and have the portal nestled right inside of the trunk. Kind of like it's just grown up and around the portal over time or something magical like that. I do feel like this is totally justified though, because otherwise this section would just be 2 boulders sitting on the ground, and while I do love a good boulder, we've established that alone doesn't really scream transformation, does it? So the tree will really help tie the space together and give it a sense of story and presence. Plus, the portal becomes this cool secretive feature hidden inside of something natural and magical. So yes, maybe it's a little bit of a custom tree moment, but I regret nothing. So now that the trunk and the branches are done, we are looking a little bit crazy, but let's get ourselves up there and add in some leaves. Luckily for us, spruce trees are one of the more straightforward trees to build, especially when you already have your branches mapped out. So from here, it's really just a case of spamming leaves in all the right places until the tree eventually looks full and fluffy enough to pass as a big old spruce. And just like that, we have a big custom spruce tree, not too different to all of the other spruce trees, but different enough to, well, look different. I'm just adding in a few lanterns under here because it is pretty dark. Let's just do some on the end of each of these chains, obviously. Now let's get this portal lit up just like that and add in some fences so that nothing scary can come out of there. And that is our spruced forest completed. Could you just imagine if this was the entire forest? I feel like it would look really good and just feel way better than having, ouch, just these small little boulders everywhere. Anyways, now let's get ourselves into the Nether. Okay, now that we have our two forests transformed, I want to join them up with our home base with a Nether highway, and this way traveling should be faster. And I think the plan is going to be boats with ice, but I don't have any ice right now, so we're just going to prep the tracks. Also, side note, I'm just going to connect these two up together and not with the home base just yet. Now, the Nether isn't directly 1-to-1 with the overworld. I'm pretty sure it's closer to 1-to-8 with the overworld, so we're going to have to divide our overworld chords by 8 to get the Nether ones, I think. But since we already built and lit the portals and we have a portal at home, we just need to join them up. So as long as we can find the portals, we should be good. I am still going to keep my mapped out chords on hand though, just in case I get turned around. But honestly, I don't even know if they're correct. So let's just keep an eye out for our portal. You might have already noticed, but yeah, this is gonna be a long process, and this is only digging from one portal to another. We still have 9 more biomes to go, I think, which means 9 more portal connections, not including the one back to our home base. That being said, I would love to sit here and complain about having to dig through what feels like miles of netherrack, but honestly, I feel like this is still the easier route compared to trying to build a whole track out in the open over lava lakes and having to dodge every spooky nether mob in existence. At least in here, it's safe. Well, safer. And honestly, once you get into the rhythm, it's kind of therapeutic in that switch off your brain and dig in a repeating pattern kind of way. At least until I reach the other side of this chunk of netherrack. Or if I ever reach the other side, that is. At long last, we have made it out the other side of this little tunnel here. But unfortunately, we have still got quite a long way to go. I don't want that guy chasing me, although I can't really run back this way either because there has been some things starting to spawn in here. However, I still stand by my point that it is much safer to do it this way than it is to be building out here. Okay, after checking my coordinates, I'm gonna have to dig this way just a little bit more and then take a right, and hopefully we'll be in the right direction. Sorry, the sound of that pig thing is really got me on edge right now. Okay, I'm hearing some mob noises, which makes me feel like I'm about to pop out of the other side of this tunnel, but honestly, we should be pretty close to where we need to be by now. Oh, you know what? I can hear some, I've forgotten what they're called, wither skeletons, which means we're close to a, what is it called? A fortress, which is great news because that is where the other end of our portal is. Question is, where is the portal? I think I'm just gonna dig down here safely. Wait, did I just hear a villager? What was that? Okay, well, I see some particles. Surely that's our portal. And it is. Ah! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! The worst possible thing just happened to me. Let's just deal with this guy and then we can make our way back to our portal and do what we need to do. Ah! There's another one. Ah, 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 ah. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, this is really not going well for me, is it? Good news is, I think we lost him. So let's get back up to our portal. And I do want to do a little walk around because I could swear I heard a villager. What are you doing in here? Okay, I feel like it's my duty to pick him up and put him back into the overworld because he definitely doesn't belong in here. I'm actually just going to try and push him in because for some reason my carry mod doesn't want to work right now. But also, I guess this guy doesn't want to go back home. So we're just going to leave him to it. So this right here is the other end of our portal. I've added in a bunch of ladders so that we can get ourselves all the way up to the top. And I've done the same on the other end in the fortress. They honestly join up pretty nicely and they're not actually that far away, technically. But once we get some ice down in here and we get a boat and whatnot, we will be absolutely flying. You see, that is already the opening right there. Then we just have to take a right and we are at the fortress, which is our other portal. What on earth was that noise? All right, well, of course there's one of these guys on the dangerous bridge. Ah! That sounded like it was behind me for some reason. Chase me! Ah! Oh, it was that was behind me. Okay, good to know. Go away! Go away! Just let me pass. Okay, I'm going. Sorry, not to you guys, to this guy. I shouldn't have bothered trying to fight him. I knew I couldn't take him. But like I said, just at the end of this corridor here, there is a little hole in the ground. And there is some ladders here so that we can get ourselves down safely. And just straight into the portal. Ah, go in. Go in. Go in. Go in. Finally. No, where are you going? All right, I've got him in a boat. Let's get him home. Slowly but surely. Gosh, the things I do for my Minecraft worlds. I quickly realized that a standard pickaxe wasn't gonna cut it, so I upgraded a fresh diamond pick to have efficiency and breaking on it. I then gathered spruce, oak, birch, and leaves. I headed back underground for more obsidian, stone, moss, andesite, clay, diorite, diamonds, and cobwebs. I picked up some lily pads, wool, and a bunch of different dye colors. Lastly, I found myself back in the glaciers collecting more ice. Alright, welcome to the ever classic oak forest, and I think with this one we're gonna go for a bit more of a storybook vibe. Custom trees of course, but I'm also thinking that a wishing well could be so cute. But right now we're just getting started on our trees here, and I'm keeping things pretty simple. Nothing too dramatic, just enough to give them a little refresh. I don't want to disrupt the whole vibe of the surrounding forest or have these ones stick out like a sore thumb, so it's more of just like a gentle facelift than a full-on makeover. So I'm just starting by building up the trunks and the branches, and then of course we can go in and add all of our leaves. Okay, trunks are looking good. Let's get ourselves up there to add in the leaves. Just like with the spruce tree, once you've got the branches marked out, the leaf placing part is honestly pretty easy. So you can just kind of go a bit wild, spamming the leaves all around the branches and just trust the process, honestly. Because eventually it will all start to come together and actually look like an oak tree. And just like that, our custom oak trees are finished. Alright, let's get started on what will hopefully be an absolutely adorable little well. And I'm starting things off with a nice platform around the base made from, well, oak logs, obviously. But I kind of want the well to look like it's been made from a big chopped down tree. So hopefully this will kind of look like a little tree stump. Now with the stump part done, I'm just going to fill in this layer here with some oak planks. Then I'm going to add some detailing around the edge with these slabs and trapdoors. Then I've just added this arm of wood to hang our bucket from. So we're gonna add a grindstone and then a chain and then a flower pot to act as the bucket. Then to make it look like it's been here for a while, and also just to finish this off, let's cover it in leaves. And just as I had hoped, the well is looking absolutely adorable. So now it's time to get to work on our portal, and for this one I'm going to keep things more subtle and mysterious. Think like a small ancient ruin vibe nestled amongst the glowing trees. I want it to feel like the kind of portal that you'd just stumble across while wandering through the forest at night, just casting an eerie little glow and making you wonder who or what used it last. Nothing too grand or flashy this time, just something that feels magical and forgotten all at once. And we are looking pretty good so far, so let's just add in our fences, and of course we're gonna have to place these both sides of the portal because we don't have like a back on this thing. And then let's add in some lanterns and of course get this thing lit. And just like that, we have the perfect little mysterious portal. Now let's quickly hop in and out of the nether so that the portal on the other side spawns in. perfect. We are inside a fortress again. And let's make our way to our next biome. Maybe after we take a nap. Next up, I'm using this birch flower forest to satisfy both our need for a birch forest and our need for a flower forest. So let's get some cutesy trees built in. With the way that my resource packs and mods and whatever are set up, the birch trees in my world have these super bright orange leaves, which, don't get me wrong, they look really lovely, but I thought it might be nice to switch things up a little. So instead of leaning into all the orange, I'm actually going to use these azalea leaves for all of our custom birch trees. And now we have 3 very cute custom birch trees. And since this is meant to double up as the flower forest biome, we are gonna build some big flower stalks. I keep seeing them on my Pinterest and they are so cute, so I thought they would just work really, really well here. I feel like in a flower forest, there isn't usually that many trees, or if there are trees, it's just like oak trees. So I feel like making big custom flowers is kind of the custom tree of the flower forest. Let's just finish off this second flower stem and then we should be good to start on the portal. And there we have 2 very cute giant flowers. Now, for this portal, the vibe I'm going for is almost like there was once this big old boulder or just like a mound here, and then someone came along and carved it out, dug right into the middle of it, and boom, placed a portal inside. Similar to the other portals, I want it to feel like a hidden relic, like you've just stumbled upon this mysterious little structure tucked into the landscape. So once we have our portal in place, we're just going to build around the outside and make it look like a grassy mound. And with a little bit of decoration, I feel like we've achieved that vibe pretty perfectly actually. So let's add in our fence so nothing scary can get out, and let's get this thing lit. So I'm going to start this whole nether process from where our oak portal led to, but I've got a feeling that this is actually the same fortress. Yeah, because I definitely got chased up these stairs. I think this is the same fortress that our other portal is in. I just don't know how to find it. Wait, I'm an idiot. I just watched that clip back and realized that the portal is literally at the top of the stairs. It's right here. I don't know how I missed that, but that is our first portal that we connected up. So technically, I guess we could get away with not starting from here and starting from up there, but I am going to start with this one because otherwise... Okay, never mind. Just trust the process. So I've gone ahead and made my way up here with the ladders, and I think, or at least I hope, if I mine this way, we'll eventually join up with the other portal's trail. So we don't really have to do too much for this part, but we still have to obviously join this all up with the other part. That is the birch flower forest portal. What am I doing here? It doesn't really matter too much what this looks like, but I do have to make sure I've got enough space to actually put the ice down later. And I'm pretty sure just on the other side of this wall here is our other tunnel. At least I hope it is. Oh, okay, well that's definitely an opening. And it is in fact our tunnel to the other portal. So obviously that wasn't the longest tunnel ever, but we do need to connect this portal up to the other portal now. So wish me luck, I guess. Unfortunately, the other portal wasn't conveniently tucked into a fortress or close to a wall of netherrack. So that meant that I had to spend some time building the track by placing blocks until I hit a wall I could start digging through. Thankfully, with all the digging I'd been doing, I already had a pretty good stash of netherrack ready to go. Still, it's definitely a little more nerve-wracking at placing blocks over the voidy bits of nether as opposed to digging tunnels. But what's a little danger in the name of progress, right? Fortunately though, the distance actually wasn't too bad. I managed to get the new track to link up perfectly with the original one from the first portal, which also obviously intersects with the path leading to the 2 portals tucked into the fortress. So once I got past the little panic of building over the open nether, everything just kind of fell into place. It's always such a relief when things line up like that. It's almost like I planned it to. Almost. Okay, this one leads to our first portal. This one leads to the birch portal, and then this one leads to our 2 portals that are in the fortress. But these guys keep spawning in here, and I keep forgetting to put my gold boots on before I come in, but that's absolutely fine. We can deal with that. Let's get ourselves back into the overworld so we can move on to our next biome. Now we're going to get to work on one of my favorite forests, the swamp. So let's get some trees going. Actually, just before we do that, I do just want to talk about the generation of these two things. I don't even know what they are, but they look absolutely crazy. Anyways, let's get to work. The nice thing about swamp trees is that they're basically just oak trees, but with some vines, which means in theory that these custom ones should be pretty straightforward to pull off. That said, I am going to switch up the leaf placement a little. Instead of going for full, fluffy and rounded like we did with our regular oak trees, I'm going to keep the tops of these a little bit flatter and more spread out. Just something subtle to make them feel a bit more distinct from the trees that we've already built, while still keeping that classic swampy silhouette. Alright, that is all 3 trunks done. Let's get to work on the leaves. And like I said, I'm going to try and keep them more wide and flat for these trees. And then once I've done the actual leaves here, I'm going to add in the vines all around the outside. So I just took a break to let all of those vines grow in, and we are looking super duper cute. Let me just swim over to show you underneath the vines, because I actually opted to add in a bunch of string just to make sure all of them don't just grow to the floor like all of these ones do. Now for extra detail in this biome, I'm thinking that some huge lily pads would look really cool. So let's go ahead and get these done, and then we can move on to our portal. Alright, that's lily pad number 1 done. I do want to do another one right over here, but this one is going to be on a diagonal, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to build, but honestly, not too difficult. So let's get it done, but also the sun is going down, so let's go take a nap first. So this block here should be where we're putting our flower. Question is, how are we gonna go around it? I guess kind of like this, because then that creates the little gap right here, and then we can maybe bring that around like that. Oh wait, no. What we need to do is take these 2 pieces and then bring that out and round like that. Okay, that feels right. So I'm just going to place down the wall here so I don't lose sight of what we're doing here. That's going back 1, 2. Then we're going to go, oh, not into the water, ideally. I feel like that might be it. So if we just build up the sides like this should look like a good diagonal lily pad. Then let's not forget to do our cobweb on the top and our glass all the way around the edge. And hop back into the water so we can take out these extra pieces that we don't need. Then to just finish off this part, I'm going to place some of these chipped mod lily pads just because I feel like they look really, really cute. For the portal, we're going for the same kind of ruin vibe where we're just going to have the portal surrounded in some sort of stony structure and then of course covered in leaves. And since the oak leaves are pretty dull in this biome, I'm opting to add in some spruce leaves to just add a bit of variation and some, not brightness, saturation maybe? So here's our little finished portal. I'm just going to add in a couple extra walls right here and make it look like there's a tiny entrance. And of course, light our portal. And with our swamp completed, let's head out for some more materials. I headed out for mangrove, acacia, and spruce wood. Once that was sorted, I picked up diamonds to repair my pickaxes, obsidian, moss, deep slate, stone, andesite, drip leaves, and gravel. I then topped off my sand and sandstone before continuing my quest for as much ice as humanly possible. Alright, onto our lovely Savannah biome, and I feel like this area has such a unique charm with its golden toned grass and funky acacia trees, so I didn't want to do anything too over the top here. My thought instead is to work with the natural landscape and turn this little pond right here into a cute watering hole or even like a mini oasis. And I think upgrading this natural feature will make the whole biome feel more alive. Like, imagine wandering through the dry savanna and suddenly stumbling on this lush little spot filled with water and some greenery surrounding it. That's the kind of vibe that I'm going for. And I know that there is an entire ocean around this spot, but I don't want to hear it. Let's just keep our focus on this little pond. Alright, I've made the border look a little bit nicer, but I kind of need to make this whole inside the water bit look nicer too, so I'm going to dig out some of the extra dirt here and replace it with some sand and sandstone, and hopefully it'll just make this whole pool look a little bit more glowy. Okay, with the floor all switched up, let's add some greenery. So I'm going to use these fences and a mix of these normal azalea leaves and these flowering azalea leaves to just create some little tiny tree-like things. Actually, I'm just gonna get rid of these leaves and move this over to here so that we can add in a couple more of them. And I kind of want one over here to be like a bit of a taller tree situation. And for a little extra detail, I want to add in a little campfire area, ouch, right here, and just a few more little bits of bushiness behind there. On this side, I'm going to add a little bench to relax on, and let's also add in some leaves on this bit. To finish up the water here, I'm going to add in some of these drip leaves, or at least I want to. Let me just place a few pieces of dirt under there and then we can plant those. Let's also do a couple of the smaller drip leaves over here. And just like that, we have a cozy little oasis. And now we have our water feature in here, we can get to work on our trees. This might actually be the first time that I've made custom acacia trees, and considering how many custom trees that I've built over the years, that's saying something. That said, I think this one should be fairly straightforward. I'm just kind of approaching it like I would an oak tree, so just a nice solid trunk with some normal branching out. But with the leaves, I'm gonna have to go for that wide, flat canopy kind of look that acacia trees are known for. Almost like what we did with the swamp trees earlier, just with a slightly more dramatic flair. Hopefully once they're all done, they'll look right at home in this savanna, just a little bit more special than the vanilla trees. Hey, you know what? I feel like I've done a really good job there for someone that's never built a custom acacia tree before. But with that done, you guys probably know the drill by now. It's time to build a portal. Since the custom acacia trees actually turned out way better than I expected, I was thinking why not just keep that going? So I'm thinking that this portal could look like it's nestled inside the trunk of a short but chunky acacia tree. Now there is some practical reasoning behind that design choice. If the tree is too tall, it's going to tower over all of the other trees, vanilla and custom, and look super out of place. But if it's too narrow, it won't be able to hide the portal inside properly. So it's gonna have to be short and chunky. So that's the base of our little chunky tree done. Let's get up on top and get our leaves on. And to be honest, the leaves are gonna be pretty straightforward, pretty much just the same thing as we did with our other custom acacia trees. So we're gonna keep it very flat and wide. And with that, our portal is finished. It does look a little bit silly amongst all the other trees, but I feel like if you were maybe looking at it from a distance or from above or something, you wouldn't even know that there was even a portal here, or that the tree was so chunky. But let's get this thing lit up. And we're gonna have to head into the Nether to connect up these portals. So once again, back in the Nether, I'm sure by now you can guess what I was doing. More tunneling, more digging, and more slightly terrifying bridge building wherever it was needed. Honestly, building these Nether highways isn't the hardest thing I've done, but it definitely starts to feel a bit mind-numbing after a while. I was definitely just on autopilot, pickaxe swinging, blocks placing, and my brain was slowly turning to netherrack, I'm sure of it. What did keep me motivated though was the thought of how useful this would all be, having everything linked with mostly safe paths, making everything just way much easier later on, for exploring and traveling that is. By the end of this trip, we had 6 portals fully connected by tunnels and bridges, meaning easy access to 6 different biomes. 7 if we count the home portal too, and honestly, that is such a huge win so far. Back in the overworld, I jumped right into working on our mangrove forest, and honestly, mangroves are easily one of my favorite newer biome additions because they are just so pretty. And I love that they managed to give them such a distinct identity compared to the regular swamps. I kicked things off by building up our custom trees, but instead of starting from scratch, I just added onto the naturally generated mangrove trees since they're already so twisty and wild that it just made perfect sense to build off of them. And it saved me a lot of time too, let's be honest here. Once the trees were sorted, I added a cute little boardwalk right across the front of the area, just so that people could come and walk along it if they wanted to. And by people, I just mean me and Millie, because absolutely no one else is here. And And of course, no area would be complete without its own portal. So I tucked this one inside of a little mud hut that blends in with the rest of the mangrove aesthetic. A cozy, slightly mysterious little gateway to the Nether. And with that all done, it's probably a good time to head out for some more materials. I set out for red and brown mushroom blocks, as well as wool and various dyes. Then I grabbed dark oak, spruce, and oak wood, as well as some cherry leaves. Then I spent some time communing with the ice, and lastly I headed underground for dirt, obsidian, gravel, andesite, diorite, moss, stone, and diamonds for repairs. Alright, we are back in the Nether, you guessed it, building and breaking and building and breaking. And we're just joining up our mangrove portal to everything else, hopefully. Alright, I'm seeing the edge of a fortress here, and I'm really hoping that it's the fortress that our other portals are in. Mostly because if it's not, we've probably gone the wrong direction, but according to my calculations, we should be fine, and that probably is our portal, but that is lava. Okay, what are we gonna do? I guess we're just gonna break this and then do that. Oh wait, no, that's not gonna fix the problem because we need to go through there. Unless? Did I fix it? Ah! No, I want to place it up in there. Oh, perfect. Okay, fixed. I'm a genius, clearly. This definitely looks like something that I've built, so I'm gonna go ahead and guess that just behind this little bit of wall here is probably one of our pathways. If not, I guess we can just take a right and join up with this one. Perfect. Now let's get ourselves out of here because we have got another biome to transform. For the dark oak forest, I'm going to shake things way up and actually start with the portal itself. Wild, I know, a groundbreaking change of pace. That said, don't worry, we're still sticking to the theme of keeping these portals small and simple. I've really just been loving the more compact, cozy vibe for each one, and this one is no different. Then once we've got our portal here sorted, we're going to jump in and add in some mushrooms and also some custom trees as we did with all of the others. And there is our portal finished. So for the mushrooms, I'm going to start by making a few little mini custom ones just to sprinkle in a bit of charm and character. Then I've got a plan to build onto a couple of the naturally generated mushrooms that are obviously already here. That way we get a really nice variation in size without spending a million years building giant ones from scratch. It should make the area feel a bit more magical and overgrown, but still manageable to pull off without totally losing my mind in the process. Alright, that is our mini mushrooms looking great. Now I'm going to transform this mushroom here and this mushroom here. And that is mushroom number 1 looking perfect. Let's get over to this one. And I think, to be honest, for this one, I'm going to go for a more like pointy style mushroom instead of just like the rounded cap style mushroom. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, just bear with me and trust the process. And there is our finished brown mushroom. I spent a little while finishing up the area with some big custom dark oak trees, and I'll be honest, they did kind of blend in with the sea of vanilla trees in the dark oak forest, but honestly, I'm just gonna say that's part of the charm. They still ended up framing the area really beautifully and gave it just a touch more structure and character. Once the trees were all in place, I went ahead and added a few path blocks here and there just to break up all of that endless green and guide the eye through the space a little bit better. It's a small detail, but I feel like it really helped the whole area feel more complete. And with that, our dark oak forest is complete. Now we're on to the cherry blossom grove, and I feel like this might be the most on-brand forest for me. I can't for the life of me figure out why, but she is super pink and super lovely, just like our little foxy friend Millie. So for our custom tree here, I'm thinking of actually just doing one pretty chunky cherry blossom, kind of in a classic bonsai shape, but obviously not a bonsai because it's going to be big, but do you know what I mean? Also, on the topic of cherry blossoms, I think I mentioned this a while ago that I wanted a cherry blossom tree, and While I can't say I have one now, I can say I spent a few hours at the garden center recently looking at different trees. Then I ultimately got overwhelmed with all of the options and couldn't pick, so I came home with a bunch of new dahlias and a bunch of other flowers and shrubs, but that's besides the point. I will have a cherry blossom soon, I just need to pick which kind, because apparently there's a lot of different types. Also, as a side note, a reddish, like purple Japanese maple tree would go crazy next to a cherry blossom. Alright, so we have our branches done now. Let's get our leaves placed. And at this point, I do have a little voice in my head telling me to complain about leaf placing because I've literally done so many different types of leaves for this project, but I'm gonna refrain because these leaves are pink and I love pink. And just like that, we have the perfect custom cherry tree. For our extra detail here, I'm thinking maybe a stepping stone type pool would be really cute and fit the vibe perfectly. Just something really simple and mossy with some lily pads and drip leaves, and hopefully it looks as cozy as the rest of the cherry blossom biome does. Alright, with all of our stone filled in, let's get the pool filled in. So I'm going to start by just flooding these pieces right here because otherwise I feel like they're going to look a little bit strange under the water. But these are going to act as our stepping stones. Hopefully, at least. Then we just need to flood all of the stairs and of course just the rest of the pool in general. Then with all our water filled in, we can add in some extra details with our drip leaves. So I'm gonna have to take out a few pieces of this right here and probably replace it with some gravel so that we can actually plant these. Oh no! Okay, well I guess they can't go on gravel, so we're gonna have to change it to some dirt probably. There is our stepping stone pool, complete with a very sleepy Millie. And since we have this pretty big, gorgeous tree, I thought I'd be ashamed to not put the portal inside of it. So that is that one done. And now it's time for Netherrack Mining Simulator. Once I got into the Nether, the task this time actually involved building with the Netherrack instead of endlessly breaking it. And honestly, that was a nice little change of pace because I had previously been breaking a lot of it. And even better, to my very pleasant surprise, the cherry portal ended up being super close to our home portal, so connecting the two didn't take long at all. Thank goodness. Unfortunately though, that wasn't the end of our time in the Nether, because of course I still had to connect the dark oak portal to the rest of our network, and yep, that meant more digging. Thankfully though, it actually wasn't that much digging, which was surprising because everything definitely felt much further away from each other than it actually was. But I'm not complaining. Okay, that was definitely one of my easier Nether trips. Let's get ourselves back home because we have some more materials to grab. I started by repairing my pickaxes and picking up some amethyst. I picked up some red terracotta, cyan concrete, spruce, and glass. Then I spent some time becoming one with the glacier, and once that was sorted, I headed to the Nether for blackstone, warped nonsense, crimson nonsense, quartz, and some soul lanterns. Okay, so we are staying in the Nether and we're getting started on the warped forest. I also just realized that diamond armor kind of blends in with this biome perfectly, which is kind of cool, I guess. But anyways, this place always kind of reminds me more of like fun, fancy mushrooms more than the crimson forest does. So I think I'm gonna build a few big glowing mushrooms just to make it look a bit cuter here. Now that's a pair of very cute mushrooms. Let's add a few more of those over here where I've left this marker. So let's build up our second thing of mushrooms. And to be honest, I think I'm gonna go for a kind of mushroom that splits off into like 3. I hope that my mouse movement there made sense. So with all of our mushrooms done, it's now time to make them glow by adding in some of these lanterns. I was thinking about adding the better end mod just so I could get the glowing mushroom blocks, but honestly, I feel like that would have been a little bit ridiculous just for this one build. So we didn't end up doing that, and I feel like this is a good enough substitute. That's the word I was looking for there. Usually this would be the part where I do trees, but I kind of feel like there's more than enough going on here right now, and honestly, I'm all treed out. So what we're gonna do now is just decorate the place a little bit with just some classic decorations like lighting and paths and just some little extra mushrooms here and there. with that, our warped forest is complete. And I can't stop thinking about how cool it would be if the entire warped forest looked like these little mushroom things instead of whatever this is. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Let's get ourselves over to the red forest and get to work on that one. Now, the Crimson Forest always feels a little bit more gothic to me, so what we're doing here is building a gothic-inspired tower as our cute little addition to this one. And just like with the last Nether biome, I really don't fancy building any more big trees, so we're going to be replacing the tree section with just some more cute decorations. But before we even think about that, let's get this tower done. Alright, I'm not quite done with the tower yet, but I am back on the ground, so I'm going to do this bit now, and I pretty much just had this really cool idea to add some amethyst in here because that way it will sort of glow and look all magical and mysterious, just like the Nether is in general. I'm also thinking adding some amethyst in here and maybe on the top as well will really pull this together, and it kind of looks like the tower is like protecting something, or maybe like a beacon for something? I don't know. So I'm just adding in my amethyst up here with the big cluster on top and then these smaller clusters around the sides. And then in all of these gaps here, I'm going to add in some windows. Oh, but not facing that way. Then with our spire on top added, I feel like this is the perfect little spooky tower for this biome. And with a little extra decoration, our Crimson Forest is complete. With all of our forests finally transformed, I got to work collecting the 2 last biomes to our main Nether highway. The Crimson Forest was super convenient because it was practically right next to the home portal, so that one was easy peasy, but of course, the warped forest made me work for it. That one was a little bit further out, which meant a very healthy, or arguably unhealthy, amount of block placing to get that tunnel finished. Still, once I got everything linked up, I felt such a wave of relief because I was done. Or at least I thought I was, then I remembered I still need to come back here with some ice later to actually build the boat highway for faster travel. So for now, I let myself enjoy the momentary peace, even if it was short-lived. Back in the overworld, I knew it was time. Time to lock in on getting the last of the ice I needed. Once I powered through that, I headed out for spruce, oak, and then back to the Nether I went. Right, once I got back from collecting ice, I just quickly ran around all of the highways and added in some walls on the parts that were open and not part of these little tunnel things, because obviously once we have ice down, we don't want to be sliding off the edges of these things into the abyss and ultimately to our death. But now that's done, we have the really fun epic task of filling in every highway with ice, which I'm so excited about and literally cannot wait to do. Like, I left this to the end of the vid because I just wanted to save the best till last. Definitely not anything to do with me dreading this the whole time. Hi guys, voiceover M once again. Now, as you can probably imagine, I spent a very long time running around the Nether with my pockets and backpacks absolutely stuffed full of ice, placing it down mile after mile to cover every last stretch of our highway system. And honestly, it's one of those tasks that sounds, pardon the pun, kind of chill in theory, but after a while I was definitely thinking, how much more ice could there possibly be to place? And spoiler alert, it was a lot. I just had to put the Spotify playlist on full blast and really put in a shift to get all of this done at once instead of segmented like how we did the base of the highways in the first place. Still, I think it's all worth it for the speed boost because these highways are going to make getting between biomes a breeze, which means I'll have much more time to get much cooler builds done in the future. Okay, I'm pretty sure I managed to cover all of the highways, and if I didn't, at this point I kind of don't care. So we're just gonna take this for a spin finally, and oh, okay, well, I'm gonna have to be careful. But this still will speed up my process as soon as I figure out how to drive a boat, apparently. I will say, even though I am struggling, apparently, this is still quicker than running, as long as I don't get stuck on all of the walls. I promise I've done this before, and I promise I'll practice, but that is our Nether highways complete. We just have one more thing to do so that we can get this finished. Okay, I think I figured it out. You just have to look in one direction and try not to steer the boat, basically. Oh, I guess we're going this way. Ah, we don't want to go that way because we're going to get attacked by that guy. I'm just finishing up here by adding in some supports on each of the corners just to make it look like a little less netherracky, I guess. I was considering signposting all of the directions to make sure we know what's going where and what's going to what, but unfortunately right now my brain just cannot take that. So I'll definitely be getting that done at a later date. But also, maybe in a future video, I'll build another highway hub. So let me know if you guys would like to see that. Whew, and with all of that done, get me home. Now, isn't this just a breath of fresh air? Oh my goodness. As I looked back at all the places we had been and the things that we had seen, I knew that Millie and I had successfully transformed bubbles in each forest along the way. And with a little more of our forever world explored, I think it's safe to say I was glad to return home. My name is Em, this is Millie, and you have all been amazing. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.